Hello, my name's Rosanne Gallagher, and I'm the author of the trilogy Memories of Lockdown and my fourth book, Memories of the Lockdown Years. These books are a collection of people's stories, ordinary people telling their stories from 2020, when COVID arrived, through the first lockdowns and through the years since then. I find it very interesting, in fact, fascinating, and together we're creating a little piece of history. So today, I'm introducing to you Deborah Jane Sutton, who is one of my writers. She has written in all four books, and I thank you so much for doing that, Deborah. It's been absolutely wonderful. And this is my Getting to Know You series, and we're getting to know Deborah today. So a huge welcome to Deborah. Thank you so much for being with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us where you're speaking to us from today.
Thank you, Rosanne. I'm so grateful to be here, and I love what you're doing. I love the work that you do. I think it's a great idea. I love how it's evolving as well. I'm speaking to you from sunny Spain, in Valencia, so which you know the area, and so yeah. Thank you so much for asking me to join you today. I'm excited to chat with you.
Great. That's lovely, Deborah. So just to go back to the very beginning and just very briefly, so that we know, because you're living in Spain now, but just to give us that little bit of story, where did you start your life, and just sort of bring us up to a little bit where you are now, and what took you to Spain, because that's always fascinating for me.
Well, I'm a Sussex country bumpkin and born in Brighton, and my mum's still in Lewis, and so I go back occasionally. Spent my teenage years in London and went to university in Canterbury, and then I travelled. And I spent my whole 20s traveling around the world. Most of the time was spent in Greece. And then I came back to England and got married, had my son, tried to conform, do all the things. I remember my mum saying, it was quite funny. My mum said to me, because I hit 30, because that's what it felt like. I was living in Greece at the time, quite happily. But then you hit 30, and your mum says, why don't you come home, get a proper job, get married, buy a house, have a baby? And I remember her saying that. Anyway, not that I was doing it for her, but I did go back to England and I got a proper job. I was teaching English as a foreign language. That's a proper job to me. I used to really enjoy it. And I did buy a house, I did get married, and I did have a baby. And then I was fine for a few years, and then I just thought, no. When my son was about 7, I left the job, sold the house, divorced the husband, and kept the baby. And brought him to Spain. So yeah, I've been here in Spain since then. I did go back to England just for a short while to Worthing, which was obviously meant to be because that's where I did my holistic therapy course, which is where I met Reiki and trained in Reiki, and that's when the door to energy opened. And then I came back to Spain, and I've been here ever since, working with energy, working
Yeah.
with healing energy and studying the emotion code, Psych K, soul realignment, soul healing, yoga therapy, um, and now more recently, tarot.
Yes, very exciting, and we'll get on to that. Oh, that's fascinating. So when you first came to Spain, did you come to Valencia? Has it
I
always
was
been
in Valencia,
this
yes,
area?
but
Yeah,
I was the other side of Valencia city in Castellón, in Burriana.
yeah.
I was teaching at the British School of Villarreal, and so I was there for 2 years, yeah. And then
Mm.
when I came back the second time, well, when I came back, I came to the south side of Valencia city
Yeah,
and
yeah,
worked at the British School of Althea.
yeah. Oh, how lovely, how wonderful. So I've got a few questions which will open up
Okay,
nicely some conversations. Shall I go with the first one?
go for
See
it.
how we
Yeah.
go.
I'm
So my
game.
first question is, if you could go back to being a child, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh my God, that makes me feel really emotional. I would say, don't ever stop being a child.
Mm.
I would say, keep doing cartwheels on the grass, keep picking the daisies, and most importantly, don't believe everything people tell you. Wow, that was funny that I felt like that.
It's interesting, isn't it? And yeah, I mean, for me, that's a great answer, and especially in view of the world we find ourselves in now, where I grew up as a child and a young person, and going through quite a bit of my life with, we were brought up to respect, and really we were told how to be, what was expected of us, and we would respect um, the police, the
Hmm.
news. We would believe everything we were told on the news. We wouldn't question it. I didn't particularly question my teachers. I did a lot of it just went whoosh, over the top, because I wasn't perhaps studying too hard, but we were brought up in such a way that we didn't question all of that. And I think that is something that I most definitely more now pass on to my grandchildren. Question everything. Just
Not only that, what you're saying now, Rosanne, is really reminding me of something which I didn't realize how relevant it was at the time. But as a teenager, I can't remember exactly how old I was, but I was more than 14 and under 18. I was
yes.
at school and I had been caught in the local pub, right? Now, I knew the law, and the law said that if you were with an 18-year-old and you were not drinking alcohol, you were legally allowed in the bar. And but the school teachers used to use that bar and they didn't want the school kids. I can understand that. I've been a school teacher, but that's not the point. Anyway, the headmistress called me into her office.
Yeah.
And I remember walking into her office, and there were plenty of chairs in her office. And I went to sit on one, and she pointed at the floor and
Oh.
she made me sit on the floor. Now, this is a teenage girl that, in my mind, I was a good girl. I was being told to sit on the floor. That to me is unnecessary in any circumstance. But anyway, I did as I was told. And she told me that I had broken the law by going into this bar. And I'm very divine truth. Actually, my soul profile, I'm very dominant in divine truth. It's one of my strengths. But I think truth is so important to me, as it is for a lot of us, right? Which is why this is it's basically the underlying thing of all this great awakening, isn't it? Is truth. And she was punishing me for going into this bar. And I remember thinking, but it wasn't illegal. And before that, it wasn't a school rule either. So why was she treating me like some kind of criminal? And she was trying to tell me that it was illegal, and I was just being honest with her. I said, no, it isn't, because I was over 14, I wasn't drinking alcohol, I was with an 18-year-old, blah, blah, And she told me that I was insolent and I was rude.
Yeah.
And all I was doing was being truthful and honest. And
Yeah.
that experience, this headmistress that had that kind of power to make me sit on the floor and tell me I was wrong and breaking the law and lying when in fact I wasn't doing any of those things.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
it just made me realize that to me epitomizes the energy that the old paradigm had us living under.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and that's what I'm not living under. I'm not there anymore, right? We're in the new paradigm, right? It's not a process, we're there.
Absolutely.
But that kind of thing,
Yeah.
that in her eyes, I was naughty, I was rude, I was a rebel,
Yeah.
and yet in my eyes, I was just honest and telling the truth. And now look at
Yes.
the world.
Yes. And I think that's the word, truth,
Mhm.
because I think that if we look back, from the earliest times when you weren't consciously thinking about things, truth was really important. And often we were told off as children, or indeed told to keep quiet as children, um, because we weren't saying what the adult or the person in charge wanted us to say. I mean, fortunately, I had wonderful parents, so I don't relate any of that to my parents, but I do relate it to school. And if at school you were told off, I can remember lots of instances of being told off. And yes, maybe I'd done this, that, or the other, but my truth was still intact. But if
Yes.
you said anything, then you were insolent, and they just went on and on. Anyway, it's very interesting,
It's
isn't it?
carried on because I remember with a lot of friends, even if we were invited out, I don't know, for dinner or to parties and stuff, I had the number of friends and partners or whatever that I've had that have like said, don't ask personal questions.
Mm.
A number of times people say, you please don't ask personal questions. And I'm like, what is the point of going to dinner with someone and getting to know them or meeting new people and getting to know them? Why would you not, what would you call a personal question? Is, it's like, I'm not going to ask questions that are going to make people feel uncomfortable, but surely that's what we're getting to know people. I think that's when I learned that I don't do small talk.
No, no,
It's like if I'm going to talk to somebody, let's get to the nitty-gritty. Who
yeah,
are they? Where does their authenticity lie? And what do we have in common? Why are we in each other's worlds? And what can we grow and learn from that? I mean, but to go to a party or something and be told by people, "Now don't ask any personal questions." What, should I just talk about the weather all day? I'm sorry.
so interesting, isn't it? It's so interesting looking back. And I was listening to a chat you were having. No, it wasn't a chat. It was your
Okay.
June energy reading, and within it you used the analogy of it. You were talking about families, and if you were the eldest
Oh,
child,
yes.
perhaps this was expected of you. If you were the middle one, if you were the youngest one, and one thing another, and then you came back to the middle one, and if you were the middle one, you were a bit of a rebel, and one thing and another, and it so rang true. Yes, middle one. It's absolutely fascinating, but I love it now at my stage of life, looking back over everything and actually being able to think to myself, oh boy, yes, God, I made lots of mistakes and this, that, and the other. Regrets? No,
No.
I don't regret
There
any of
weren't
them.
mistakes, there were lessons, weren't
So
there?
yeah, lessons.
And
um
you can also see when you look back, because we created it all, I believe, from a soul level. We've planned it all, and we can tell that from the
yeah,
synchronicities. When you
yeah,
start having the synchronicities, it's quite obvious that there's an orchestration going on that our humans have no idea about. But one of the blessings, and I talk about it in my book, Lessons in Awakening, um, is about my two sisters, because I've got two. Oh, bless you.
we'll come
I've
on
got
to
two
that.
sisters. One of them is a born again Christian. All right. She's devout Christian, just follows the Bible. And the other one is an atheist, right? And she studied psychology and what have you. And she follows mainstream science and what have you. And then there's me in the middle. And you think at first I thought, oh, this is laughable. But then I realized, no, it's not laughable. It's co-created for my benefit,
Yes,
so that I can see the different perspectives. And then when we see the different perspectives, we don't need to judge them. But what they do is they help us self-realize, by seeing my sisters and their beliefs and how they live and what they, where their thoughts are coming from and stuff. And it helps me realize more about who I am because we learn about ourselves through similarity with other people, obviously. Oh, that person's similar to me. And then you realize more about yourself. But we equally learn about ourselves through contrast, don't we? When we're in contrast to other people. And we don't need to, it's easy to judge other people when they don't believe what we believe. But and I'm not saying that I came in at that non-judgmental point, don't get me wrong. I've been very judgmental, and that's what I talk about here with my sisters in particular. And they've both given me permission to have them in the book because ultimately, it led to me understanding that we don't need to judge contrasting views and everything. And that while I was trying to tell them the truth, what I was really doing was consolidating it within the cells of my
Yes.
body. And
Yes.
there wasn't one moment, I'm going to get emotional again. There wasn't one moment during that time when my sisters didn't show me unconditional love. So in the end, I started off thinking that I was their teacher, and I ended up realizing, no, they were mine.
Yeah. It's very powerful, isn't it? The other thing that I picked up on in when you were talking is how easy it is and how often it happens actually, and more these days I find, where you connect with a stranger.
Well, that's one of the things I mentioned in that June reading, wasn't it? Because the tarot wisdom reading, because when you meet a stranger, it's quite easy. Especially with clients and people that are coming into our events that we're doing and stuff, because we can see the divinity within them, and we see that mirror of the parts of us that we identify with. But the question is, isn't it? When we see someone that we don't identify with, and the baggage that is carried through families. That's why I was talking about family members, because like I'm going home in a couple of weeks. I'm quite excited. I don't go back very often. But to them in their eyes, because to them in their eyes, I am always going to be a certain way. I'll always be the rebel, or I'll always be this, I'll always be that. But we equally have that baggage for them. I've got a whole, mind full of memories of my family members and friends from then, and I'm bringing that baggage into my relationships. We need to release all baggage, because it's the baggage that's making us judgmental, isn't it, really? And we need to give everybody the opportunity to be a clean slate, and to take everybody as they are now. Because the truth is, from a quantum perspective, everybody is a mirror of a part of us. And we want that opportunity, don't we? So, but I think it does explain why we can click so easily with strangers, and talk so readily with strangers. And yet with people that we've known a while, we're judging them, or we're carrying baggage from them.
Yes.
But I think that's the role that family members play on a
Yes.
soul level.
Yes.
Let's incarnate as a family so we can really help each other grow through
Mm.
similarity and through love, but equally through contrast and triggering.
Yes. Yes. And that's not easy, is it? That's not easy. But I think, as the main thing you point out there is that as long as there is that love within the family, as long as there's the foundation of love, then you can, as you learn, start recognizing the things that trigger you, and without judgment, know that they're the lessons you need to learn. Or that's how I see it.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
and the baggage that we all carry within the families is so heavy, because often we're carrying it, it's not even ours, and we haven't even recognized it, and we don't even know we're carrying it, so it just goes on and on and on until we make that breakthrough.
Yeah,
It's interesting,
exactly.
isn't it?
Yeah, that's one of the lessons in awakening.
Absolutely. Shall we go on to question 2? Let me have a
Go on
little look
then.
here. um okay. Is there someone, or even a couple of people, that have been the biggest influences in your life in any way that can be? And you don't have to answer these. If I ask you something and you just think, we
No,
can go on.
it's fine. It's fine. I don't know whether I'll answer it the way you want it answered. I don't know. I'll say what's coming to me, because it depends which way you want to look at things, right? But I've just said, haven't I, that everyone's a mirror to us. Everything outside, because there's nothing outside of us. From a quantum perspective, there's nothing outside of us.
Mhm.
So anyone that we're perceiving as being outside of us is a reflection of a part of us. Therefore, any influence that there's been in my life has to be me. Or at
Yes.
least my higher self. I would say my higher self, because we've talked about synchronicities as well. and it is all orchestrated. So the biggest influence in my life is the highest part of me, us, whatever, the oneness that is orchestrating it all, because that's the biggest influence. But to wind it back again, let's come back into the physical realm. Well, there are some obvious teachers like I would say, like the books I've read, I would say Dr. David Hawkins. His books have been very influential. Dolores Cannon, very influential. Bruce Lipton. And I was in Sarah Landon's masterclass for a couple of years. She channels beings called the Council, and that helped me a lot on my journey.
Yeah.
But you know what? Everybody's a teacher. Everybody's a teacher. I've already talked about my sisters. They taught me unconditional love, and that's the biggest lesson, right? And they were right there, you know.
Yeah.
And of
Yes.
course, I have to mention my son, of course. There's something about having a child that, well, maybe not everyone feels like this, but for me, he really, oh, I feel emotional saying this as well, but he really made me want to be the best version of me I could be in order to be the best mother I could be. And so I would say he's been a massive influence. And now that he's older, we're genuinely good friends as well as mother and son, which is a blessing. I'm really pleased about that. Um, I have to mention my husband because, he was obviously part of the journey.
Yes.
The freedom and security. I would say two of the things that people want in life most is freedom and security. And I feel I have that, and my husband has helped a lot with that. So I would say him. And you know what, as well, I want to mention as well. Oh, I will also mention Liz because I do mention her in the acknowledgements here because she's been my good friend and my mentor for, however long I've known her. So she's definitely been a teacher and an influence. But I also want to mention everybody's a teacher, right? Including my dog, right? So my dog, you've got a dog you love, haven't you, as well?
I
So
have got a dog I love.
I was walking in the campo and my dog ran off into the orange groves and he was started rolling around in something. Fortunately, is that a picture of her? Oh, a picture of me and my dog. Oh, I thought you were going to get a picture of you and your dog. Oh, bless, yeah. That's my dog. And so he went off into the orange groves and I was rolling around. Actually, fortunately, he was rolling around in only mud because he has been known to roll around in decaying fish and other matter. But anyway,
Mm.
and he came out from the orange groves and he was just covered. He's a white dog, as you could see, covered in mud. And part of me wanted to tell him off, right? And then the other part of me was like, chill, Deborah, chill. Take the lesson. I heard this voice that just said, take the lesson. And my dog taught me that we should all unapologetically, unashamedly roll around in whatever brings us joy,
Mm.
even if other people don't get it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
for me, I made a little photograph of that. That was my number one lesson from my dog. We need to unapologetically, unashamedly roll around in whatever brings us joy,
Mm.
even if other people don't get it.
Mm.
And
I
so,
like
as
that.
far as an influence, I would say everything, everything,
Yes.
everyone.
Yes. And our dogs are, I agree with you, our dogs are wonderful teachers. Our dogs that never moan and groan. They never get annoyed with us because we've left their food for an extra hour or we've forgotten this or we've forgotten that. And they show us unconditional love. They are wonderful teachers and they live in the now. They're not sitting around worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. And that's, they're so happy, I guess, because of that, aren't they? They are wonderful teachers. And boy, do we miss them when they pass on. And yeah, yeah. Deborah, well, my next question is, what would you die on the hill for?
When you say die on the hill, I'm assuming you mean what is my passion?
Yes.
Yeah,
That
okay.
that
Because
nothing's going to waver you on that.
I would say, because if you say, when you say die, I think there's this phrase that we all need to die while we're still alive.
Yeah.
It's that we need to see that death is an illusion. So when you say die on the hill, my first thought is we can't die. We will transform
We just
from
go
this
on.
lifetime.
Yeah.
Um, but when the phrase is meant to mean, what is your biggest passion? I understand that. And I would say, and it's quite relevant for this Great Awakening, because this Great Awakening is really in two parts. And the first part, as we've already discussed, is waking up to what is really going on in the world with using that truth radar that we've already mentioned. Um,
Yes.
but I would say more important than that, I mean, seeing the darkness, I look at it from an energetic perspective. What that did was just helped us see the darkness. But the next part of the Great Awakening is what to do about it, because keep talking about the darkness, keep swimming in the murky water, as I call it. That's not helping anybody. It's just expanding the murky water. I want to swim up here where the water is clean and you can see the sun coming through, and everyone's happy and joyful and living in peace and harmony. So really the Great Awakening is about how do we create that. And my biggest passion is helping people understand how we create our reality, and how, from a quantum perspective, we have co-created that darkness. We have to
Yes.
take responsibility
Yes.
for it, because, as
Yes.
Rumi says, you're not just a drop in the ocean, you're the
Yeah.
whole ocean in one drop. And meaning we're not just a human being in the universe, we're the whole universe in one human being. So that darkness is within us. And if that revolts us, if that disgusts us, then we've got work to do. And it is all about integrating that shadow, because when we can integrate our own shadow, we will see that reflected in the collective. And I think your books are a good sign of this, because you can see how everybody reacted to 2020 in a different way, yet there is a similar theme of waking up in some way or another, of seeing the truth and waking up, taking opportunities, taking leaps of faith. Basically, whether people are doing it consciously or not, people are
Mm.
expanding into more of who they are and aligning with their soul's blueprints, which is what it's all about. Because when we're in alignment with our blueprint and we're doing what the plan, our souls have a plan. When we follow that plan, life is not a struggle. Everything's easy. It's effortless. It's choiceless. It flows. It's just loving, and then we look back at our life thinking, oh my goodness, why weren't we taught this in school? We know why we weren't taught it in school. But the point is, we can swim out. And I'm not saying it's easy to swim out of that darkness. I'm not saying it is. That is our challenge, is to swim out of the murky water. And we might get pulled back various times, but we need to keep focused, on lightening. People, love and light. It's true. That energy that creates everything is love, right? And we are light, because we are the chakras are the rainbow. We are made of light bodies. The universe is it operates through mathematical equations and sound, and it is all energy and vibrations. I mean, that's what Nikola Tesla said. And so it is about tapping into that. It is about, we do need to lighten our bodies. And for me, the best way to do that is obviously to release the emotions. I mean, you know about that. You did the Heal Yourself to Happiness course. So to release emotional trauma, or release trapped emotional energy that isn't serving us, because it's low frequency. And then if when we release that, we can fill ourselves with, more love. But the love that we are, the love isn't coming in from outside. The love is who we innately are, but also our beliefs. Beliefs are also frequency. So
Yes.
if you have a belief that isn't serving you, or a belief that something is bad and wrong and whatever, that's heavy, and that's what's keeping you in the density. That's what's keeping you swimming in the murky water. A lot of it is our rigid thinking and thinking
Yes.
that the world can't be a different way. The number of people that I meet that go, "Oh, that's just the way it is.
Yes.
That's just the way it
Yes.
is. You can't change it." And I'm like,
Yes.
"What do you mean I can't change it? I'm the creator." When we understand that we are the
Yes.
creator of our reality through our observation and through our judgments of what we're observing, that is literally how we create our reality. And when I was writing this book, I had a download that said, the observer's judgment of the observed is what defines it. But we don't understand that we have this power. People keep saying, "Oh, you're the creator of your own reality," and then people believe, "Yes, it's just because I work hard and therefore and I make money, and then with that money I do good. So I am the creator of my own reality, and I bought this house, and so I am." But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about from a quantum perspective, from an energetic perspective, from a real perspective, a truth perspective. You're creating your reality through the judgments that you're putting on what you observe. It's the self-fulfilling prophecy. You observe something and you judge it a certain way. If you judge it negatively, you're putting yourself back in that murky water. Why would you do that? So
Yeah.
this is why not only thinking positively is so important, but seeing the good in people is so important. And then people will say, "Yeah, I can see the good in strangers." We talked about that. But we've got to see the good in also our family members. But then it's like, how do we see the good in the evil and stuff? It's about, let's not label it evil. Let's label it an absence of love. The darkness is just an absence of light. And us judging it negatively is taking away our own light. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? And it's not about, we don't need to look in this direction and focus on it. People are so wrapped up in in the revenge or in the I've got to change the murky water. You can't change the murky water. That's the only thing you can change in life is you, your energy, your perception of things. So what I suggest is you just turn around and swim in that direction. And
Mm.
the direction to go in, as far as I'm concerned, is to follow your joy. People talk about following your heart. If you don't follow your heart, you're going to spend the rest of your life wishing you had. Following your heart and doing what you're good at, because everybody is good at something. Everybody has a desire. And the biggest thing that stops us is we cannot fathom with our limited human mind how we're going to support ourselves
Mm.
doing what we love. So we end up doing it as a hobby
Mm.
because we cannot see, because we think we've got to make X amount in order to live. And I'm a good example of this, because if you had told me 15 years ago that I would be supporting myself and living in abundance, I've got everything I want and everything I need in life, right? And I've been supporting myself through reading tarot. If you had told me that 15 years ago, I would have laughed in your face. I would have said, how? How is that? That's not possible.
Mm.
But it is possible.
Yes. But we are so programmed. We are so programmed throughout our lives, or we have been. It won't be the same going forward now, because there will be different teachers and different things to teach and different ways to be and different ways to live, because that's what we want to create. But we have been so programmed to be limited,
Yes.
to be limited, which of course makes us, unless we step out of it, we stay on the hamster wheel.
Mhm.
Um, do we want another war? No, we don't want another war. Oh, but there've always been wars, as if that makes it
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
it's so interesting, isn't it?
It's a good example. I remember my mum saying many, many years ago when I
Mm,
was a student, and I was only a tiny bit overdrawn in the bank, right?
mm,
Not a lot. And I used to work in my holidays to pay back any overdraft I'd accumulated. And the bank sent me a letter to say that I was overdrawn, which I already knew. And they charged me £30. to send me the letter to tell me. And I remember complaining about that to my mum, and she just went, "Oh, that's banks. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Can't change it." You
Yeah.
know, and I was like, if that's your attitude towards banks, I'm not surprised the banks are collapsing now. The banks need to collapse. I'm sorry, it's one of my things. But it's about, let's go back. I love going back to basics. I love the markets and,
Mm.
working in cash or exchanging. That's one of the things that I do. We were talking, yes,
Yeah.
this is a good segue, Roseanne. We were talking about my event in Glastonbury. And I was saying, yeah, I'm more than happy to do it on a donations basis. Um, I do my yoga classes on a donations basis, and I'm sure I receive the same as I would if I had put a set price. But it's not about the money. It's about doing what you love, sharing what you love, following your passion, and sharing it with others. It's this quote from Pablo Picasso. He said, "The meaning of life is to find your gift, but the purpose of life is to give it away."
Yeah.
And
Wonderful.
that's
Yes.
that's what I do, right? I'm not
Yes.
saying I give it always. I do charge clients on a one-to-one, but
Yeah. Well, because
um,
we're still, living in the way that we're living, and we still have things that we do need
yes, but
that
also there's
energy
this, yeah,
exchange.
there is this idea about people do need to invest in themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, we do need to invest in ourselves. I mean, I've invested so much in my own journey. And this is one of the other things, the number of people that would say, "Oh, I can't afford to go on that retreat," or "I can't afford to have a massage," or "I can't afford to give up the job that I hate." I'm like, you can't afford not to do these things if those things are going to raise your frequency,
Mm.
because the truth is, quantum truth, your reality is a vibrational match to your frequency, which means your future lies in your frequency and not in your bank account. And
Yeah.
that's really important to understand. So
Yeah.
if doing any of those things, leaving the job that you hate, going for some self-care treatment or whatever, buying yourself that new dress, if it's going to raise your frequency, you can't afford not to do it.
Not to do
That's the way
it.
I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a whole new currency, a whole new
Yes.
currency coming in,
Well,
and that's
yes, I actually I've said many times that our consciousness, our level of consciousness is our new currency. Because when we understand how it all works, we know this. The universe will just bring you what you need, because the truth is there is no future and it's already here for you. It's
mm,
called destiny, but we need to just allow it to unfold.
mm.
So yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
The level of consciousness is our new currency.
yeah, and just touching on that, how we've been programmed to feel limited and to act and live our lives in a limited way. Um, that's what we're turning around, and
Well, there's
it
only
is.
us that can change it.
It's only us that can do it, and it's so empowering, and it is so joyous
Yeah.
to feel it.
Yeah.
So so
Exactly.
that
Life wasn't meant to be a struggle. I mean, when
no,
you're in that place, everything just falls into place. I'm not saying everything is, always as I would prefer, but it's learning to navigate it with ease and peace in your heart, because understanding that it's just the human experience. And when you really understand that how you judge it is how it's going to manifest, that makes you look for the silver lining. That makes you look for the gratitude. That makes you look for the divinity and the love within everything and everyone. And that's the changing point. That's life changing.
that's life changing. Yes, it is. And how wonderful to be alive at this time of change.
Definitely. We
Wow,
chose it, didn't
we
we?
chose it.
We just didn't know it.
um, I think probably my questions, we're kind of answering them as we go along, because I've got the next questions. Can you remember a difficult experience in your life and what it taught you? And we've sort of
I
covered that
can
in a
think
way.
of another one. I can think of one. Do you want me
Yeah.
to elaborate on that? Or I don't know what we
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
time-wise.
Lovely.
Okay. I mean, obviously there's been loads, but the one that comes to mind, um, which inspired the section in this book, that you are your higher self, and realizing that Deborah and Rosanne, as much as they are lovely and gorgeous and doing a grand job, they are limited, as you said. They are programmed. They're in human form, and they therefore have the human limitations. But we are so much more than Deborah and Rosanne. The way I look, and what taught me this was in 2021, I experienced some grief, right? The highest level of grief that I've had in my life so far. And of course, grief is something that affects all of us at one time or another. It's born out of love, of course. You cannot love, love and grief. Grief is love, but it is a powerful emotion that if we don't process it, can get stuck in us. And you see this, don't you? People that grieve,
Yes.
they never get over, and then they might get sick, or you hear about couples, one will die soon after the other, and stuff like that. But also, you hear about a lot of people where they have grown through grief. Grief is the springboard to enlightenment, because their heart is in so many pieces. But once your heart is in so many pieces, your heart's open. And that was a beautiful way to look at it. And Deborah, in her physical form, and this is when I started referring to Deborah in the third person, because Deborah, in her physical form, was experiencing so much grief. And I remember exactly where I was. And I was in a kitchen, and it was like a wave of energy. I needed to get it out. I needed to cry it out, but I was trying to hold everything together. Right. I think we could all relate to that.
Yes.
And in the end, I knew I couldn't hold it in any longer. And so I fell to my knees and I cried like a baby. And at that moment, I realized that I was looking at Deborah from above. And I could see her collapsed on the kitchen floor, crying her little heart out. And I realized that I was not Deborah. I realized that I am a multidimensional being of love. And I was able in that moment to hold space for Deborah and allow her to express this emotion and process it like I would a child.
Yeah.
And my perception of Deborah was exactly like a child, It was like, here's a child, she needs to cry it out, as if like if you've got a little 4-year-old needing to cry, you would hold space for them. You would let them know that they were safe, let them know that they're loved, and let them process that emotion. I mean, good parenting, I guess, would do this. A lot of us were told, don't cry. And that's why we have all this suppressed anxiety and sadness and anger and everything. And that's why the world is as it is. That's another perspective, I guess. But I just remember that moment where I realized that I needed to look after Deborah as if she was my child. And
Yes. Yes.
everything changed after that, because I used to give her a hard time. I might sort of like beat myself up, sort of don't do that. Or I used to criticize myself, Deborah would criticize herself and do what have you. All of that went out the window. And I just realized that we need to process these emotions. We need to feel loved, secure, and we need to honor that. And the other thing, if you do need to process an emotion like that, and you can feel it building up, and often we avoid it coming out because we think it's some kind of monster in us. It isn't. It's a child that just wants to cry. When we allow that and hold space for that, that distances us a little bit, and it actually lessens the intensity of the emotions. So I processed a lot of that grief in that moment purely by realizing that I was more, and I was the love that Deborah needed at that time in order to be who Deborah needed to be in that time.
Beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah. And again, that makes me reflect on the fact that, talking about how throughout our lives we're programmed to this and we're programmed to that, and we are programmed. I think particularly as women, we are programmed to be the good sister, the good daughter, the good mother, and certainly by the time it comes to being the good mother, you're putting yourself at the bottom of the pile. Everything else and everyone else definitely comes before you. And we get very practiced in that. Yeah. And I think I certainly think that most of us have gone through most of our lives until again we've questioned, is that the right thing? Because actually it's like that what's the word? I can't think of the word, but the example of if you're on an aircraft and they put down the oxygen
Yeah.
masks and you don't,
You have to take yours first.
yes. And it's that. And I never looked at it like that. And I still battle with that in some ways. It's so deeply within us to look after everyone else first.
But what I want to say to that, it's funny that you used that analogy, actually, Rosanne, because what I would say is don't do it for yourself. If you're so used to working for other people, listen to this one, right? So like you're saying, so the oxygen mask comes down. Let's say we've got two children next to us. We're so tempted to put theirs on first, aren't we? And if we do that, then we're struggling to put our own on. And then we might put our own on, but we're already feeling a little bit
Yeah.
depleted, agreed? Well, look at it this way. When you get your oxygen mask, you put it on first so that you're coming from a place of overfill. This oxygen mask is really a love mask, right? So it's love, right? So you're actually able to help your children from a place of overflow rather than from a place of depletion. So you've got your love mask on, and then you're putting theirs on, and then the next one on. But then what happens? Let's take it a stage further. You're now feeling so good because you've got your love mask on and you've had it on securely for the whole time. You've helped your own children. There's a whole plane there, and you're
Yes.
coming from a place of overflow.
Yes.
So that love or that oxygen or whatever, that energy, should we call it, is overflowing out. You've now got the capacity to help the whole plane,
Yeah.
right? And that's why you need to
Absolutely.
put your love mask, your oxygen mask on first. It's not for your benefit. It's
Mm.
for everybody's benefit.
Mm.
And that's what people need to understand.
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What else have I got here?
Let's talk about Glastonbury.
And then we'll talk about Glastonbury.
Okay.
I think, well, the last question, if your life had chapters, which chapter are you in now?
Oh,
So
that's such an interesting one. Yeah, that's such an interesting one. Um, it's interesting, isn't it? Because in the old days, in the old paradigm,
yes.
I remember going to visit when I was in Greece. I had a boyfriend, a Greek boyfriend, and
Mm.
I went to visit his mum in the village in where they came from. And at the time, I'm sure she looked 80 years old or something. And when I found out that she was 56, I was like, oh my God, with very few teeth and stuff like that. I'm going back in time, this is when I was in my 20s. But I just remember thinking in those days, to be 50 something was already considered old. And then when I was growing up, 50s is middle-aged, right?
Yeah.
And funny enough, I was talking to my husband about this the other night. Because now I'm the big 660. Um, and we're programmed again because the thing is, though, you turn 60, not in Spain, but in England, you get a free bus pass, right? And I started you're actually referred to as a senior citizen. And I was like, oh my God, do you want to give me any more labels to make me feel old? It's just not the same because I'm seeing it with all the work that I'm doing on a one-to-one with people and seeing their soul's plans and stuff like that. And I'm like, we're all exactly where we're meant to be. And most of us are flourishing right now. I mean, there's a lot of people talking about women over 55. You watch out for women over 55 because they're the ones that are now realizing the whole shebang and
Mm.
not just like the, patriarchal system that we were brought up in, but they're realizing what they want. I want to say childbirth and death. These are two things that, need to change. They're clearly
Yeah.
designed by, I don't know
Yeah.
who, but a system that doesn't care about divine love and truth.
Mhm.
We need to change systems like that. We need to go back to basics and be who we as women really know how to be, to love, to nurture, to come together at the right times for the right place and the right people. I mean, really, and now I'm realizing that this isn't even middle age. This is definitely not old age. This is the beginning of, and that's why the word rebirth is so important. So, what chapter am I in? Rebirth.
Yeah, lovely, wonderful. And I definitely join you there. I definitely join you there. And I'm in the seven O's. So, and I feel great. And I'm doing so many new
Exactly. You're a
things.
perfect example, Rosanne, a
Well,
perfect
I don't know
example.
about that, but I hate labels. I've always hated labels because if you give someone a label, they often live by that
That's
label.
your
And
self-fulfilling prophecy that we were talking about earlier on.
I don't like that. So let's whiz on because you've done such incredibly interesting things. And I was, as you mentioned, the Healing Yourself to Happiness. Now that was your first book back in 2015, I think.
Yeah, exactly. My first book, Heal Yourself to Happiness, 2015. We should mention that the PDF version is free to download from my website at
Wonderful.
deborahjanesutton.com. I made that free in 2020 because I realized that people needed to heal themselves
Needed
to
it.
happiness.
That's
But you
wonderful,
did the
Deborah.
course. That's where we
Yeah.
met, wasn't it? Because you
Yes,
did the online
absolutely.
course. Yeah.
And anything we talk about, we can put the links underneath what
Hmm.
when we put the video out. Okay.
Because there is a second book, Heal Your Soul, which was
Yes.
published in 2018.
Yep.
But this is the only book I've written since 2020. And so it makes it pretty relevant.
This one.
Yeah, which, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, which is beautiful. And I'm pretty sure that I read in here, and I haven't read it completely yet, Deborah. I've got it and I love it and I've got it by my side, but I haven't read it completely yet. But one of the bits that I did pick up on was maybe it was in your introduction where you said that you had a message or whatever you want to call it, that you should write this book.
Yeah,
And you've written
that was in the introduction. Yeah.
that's in the introduction. Can I read it out?
Yes, of course.
So Deborah's got this in the introduction. So, she had this message to write this book. And this was the message she had. Writing this book is your purpose. It is your destiny. It honors your relationship with self, with God, and with who you really are. It's what you came here to do. Put your love onto paper. Put your love for humanity into words. Express your love for life and all that's in it through your words and understandings. Trust that your words will be appreciated at this time. You are love. It is time to share this love and help others feel into the love that they are. I think that's just absolutely beautiful, Deborah.
Wow. Thank you, Rosanne, for
Beautiful.
reading that.
No,
What it was born out of a tarot card reading because, as you know, I love tarot, and it was the lover's card that came up. And it was the love. I said to you before, didn't I? That the cards talked to me, and that was what the lover's card said to me.
yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Look at that lovely cover. It's just so gorgeous. There we are. It's absolutely lovely. Um, the other thing is your new podcast. Tell us about your new
Oh,
podcast,
okay.
Deborah,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
this is
yeah.
quite a new thing, isn't it?
It is very new,
Yeah.
and I don't really know where it's going, but I was inspired, and I had to practice what I preach that we need to follow our inspirations. It's called Truth and Tarot Time, where I have guests, guidance, and tarot wisdom. And each week,
Wonderful.
it's published on a Friday at 3 p.m. each week, and each week I have a different guest,
Yeah.
and we basically chat. We do a little tarot card reading to see what wisdom comes up.
Lovely.
And then we discuss whatever came up in the cards. And of course,
Wonderful.
we also, people don't have to be a tarot card reader to be a guest, but a lot of my guests are tarot card readers. So we
Yeah.
kind of do it together. But they then go on and we talk about whatever wisdom comes up, whatever guidance comes through. And then we talk about whatever they've got going. I mean, the one I did the other week was a EFT tapping practitioner. So we did a little
Mhm.
bit of tapping. The one that came out this week, she's written a book. And so if they've written a book, obviously we'll talk about their book or their journey, what they do, or their healing modality or whatever. It's just, it's unscripted. I don't prepare for it. We just go in and do it. And the little jingle that I put beforehand, I was quite pleased about that. I actually created the graphics myself, which was learning. We were talking about learning this technology, weren't we? And I was quite proud of myself for that. And the music was my son. He's a musician. He's amazing. He's so gifted. And I just said to him, do me a jingle. I want it around the energy of the Fool card in tarot. And he knows how to read tarot as well. And within like a couple of minutes, he sent me that. I was like, wow. So it was perfect. So yeah, things just fell into place and I just love doing it. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter what happens. The outcomes are never important as long as we enjoy the journey. That's the whole point.
Mm. Yes. And I agree with you so much, which is exactly why we're here now.
Yeah.
Because I had the same idea through the books. Because I had a lot of people sort of saying to me, oh, it's lovely now that I've read the fourth book. Some of the writers wrote in the trilogy, books 1, 2, and 3, and then others like you stayed on with me for the fourth book. And I had readers saying to me, oh, I'm really feeling as though I'm getting to know the writers. I've been reading their stories since 2020. And it just made me think, oh, actually, we could go one step further. And which led to this, obviously, talking so that you can actually see and hear my writers. And I'm getting to know you all so much better as well. So I love it. I'm a complete beginner. Behind the scenes, I'm terrified to press buttons in case I press the wrong one and I don't know, upload it into the cloud, which I don't even know what that means, so all of that. But I'm really enjoying it. And, it's all the different things that we're doing. So it's absolutely great. Is there anything else that you would like? Because I think we could talk for hours, but is
I
there
want to
anything
talk
else
about
that
Glastonbury.
we're going to talk? Oh, are we going to pull a couple of cards, Deborah,
Oh
or
my
not?
goodness me, this is going to go on for ages. I can pull a couple of cards if you want. As long as we could, that one just flew out. Did you see it? I literally
Yes.
just picked them up and only one flew out. Well, one flew
Okay.
out. Should we just talk about the one? Yeah.
Okay.
It's a major arcana, which means it's powerful. It's the Hanged Man, which I know it doesn't look good if you're not into tarot, but trust me, there's your tea of tarot truth. The rays around his head show spiritual guidance. And the fact that he's hanging upside down, okay, so it's interesting. When you're upside down, you see things from a different perspective. And
Yes.
this is about what did we say in the very beginning? Don't believe everything you're told.
Mm-hmm.
Be critical in your thinking and see things from a different perspective. And I want to say a more loving perspective, not an angrier one, not a I'm right, you're wrong, a more self-loving, because when we judge another person, that doesn't feel good inside. Forget the other person, they don't really exist. They're a reflection, a projection of something inside you for you to learn and grow from, right? So when you judge it, it puts you in a state of contraction. And like we said, it takes you back to the murky water. It doesn't feel good. It's not self-loving. Judging people favorably or at least neutrally,
Yes. Yep.
that is feels better inside. When you look at somebody and you think a positive thought about them, it makes you expand, doesn't it? When you can see the love in them, it makes you expand. That's you. That's you expanding. We cannot expand in a state of contraction. So we need to stop judging the outside world. Not because the outside world isn't, not because the outside world has changed, but because we want to live in a state of expansion. We want to live our life, be the change that you want to see. We want to feel that expansive feeling of love inside. And that comes when we stop judging. And when we do that, the outside will reflect back to us that neutrality, that peace, that love, or whatever it may be. And the other message with this card is don't force action. If things are a struggle and you have to force it and plan it, I mean, you know what they say, nothing makes God laugh louder than a human with a plan. Because your soul has a plan, and if you try and go against it, your life is going to be a struggle. And people say, well, maybe I don't want to do what my soul wants me to do. Trust me, you do, because whatever your soul came here to do is what's going to bring you the most joy and the most prosperity, the most abundance, and the most love into your life. And so the message with this card is he's don't force action, but it doesn't mean you don't do anything. It means that this is solitude, stillness, and silence, right? Silence and stillness. Go to that place of solitude, silence, and stillness without thinking that you've got to keep doing something. Stop looking at the watch, put all the devices down, just stay there. Why can you not stay there longer? It's good practice to just stay there as long as you can, but we keep thinking we've got to do something. But the truth is, when you tap into that stillness, if there is something divine for you to do, if there's divine action coming through for you to do, it will come through you and you will not have a choice. Your body will just do it. It will be effortless, it will be joyful, and it will have the most beautiful outcome for you. But you need to trust in all of that. So this card is basically saying solitude, silence, stillness, trust the process, and any action that you need to take will be effortless and joyful.
Yeah.
And it will come through you as opposed to pushing energy from you. That depletes us. When it comes through you, it lifts us.
Absolutely. And often I think, just to add that, I think that there are moments when we've been trying to force a situation because we've believed that it's the right situation, and in the moment we let it go, we just whatever you want to say, accept or surrender, or we let it go, and we trust the outcome. That's the moment it comes.
Exactly, because the thing is, what you resist persists. When you're in a state of resistance,
Yes.
what you're getting annoyed about is going to carry on. You have to let go. That's why let go, surrender, all these things that you've just said, they are what I call spiritual lessons in life, but there's also quantum science behind them all.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what it's about.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's a bit like, and I'm going to keep saying it, but the Glastonbury event that we haven't talked about yet, but we're going to,
Yes.
is that's fallen into place. We just connected, boom, the venue, you rang them, date, free.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm coming to England. I'm coming to Glastonbury. I have never been to Glastonbury in my life. I am so excited, and we're going to be doing an event.
Yeah. So just tell us briefly why you're coming to England. Are you coming for something specific?
The main reason I'm coming to England is to see my boy, because my
Yeah.
boy moved back to England 2 years ago to look after his father, who isn't well, sending lots of love. But while I'm in England, of course, I will see all of my family and my old school friends or my old friends from babyhood.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine is doing a retreat in Glastonbury. And I was like,
Wonderful.
I'm worth that. So I'm going to Glastonbury to do a weekend retreat. But also I'm coming to Glastonbury to meet you because we have not met in person. And that is going to be a hug. That is going to be
That's going to be
precious.
lovely.
That's going to be a beautiful hug. And so we've just arranged something for Sunday, the 5th of July
We have
in
Sunday, the
the
5th of
Avalon
July.
Club in the High
Yep.
Street of Glastonbury,
Yep.
7 p.m. to 9 p.m. An evening of tarot wisdom, a reading of the present energies and how we can navigate them on a collective level, but also open to Q&A and personal questions afterwards
Wonderful.
through the cards. So
Wonderful.
if you're in the Glastonbury area and you have some questions, come along.
Yeah. And I'll be putting all the details below. I'll be putting all the details out. So if anybody wants to contact me beforehand to say they're coming along, I'll get it sorted, Deborah.
That's what
I'll
I
get
call
it sorted.
co-creation.
Yeah. Wonderful. 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 And it's very soon. It's very
I
soon.
know. I know.
So,
I'm very excited.
oh, is that a good moment for us to say goodbye?
I think it's perfect.
Otherwise, we'll be here till midnight. It's perfect. Thank you so much for coming on today. The one important question I didn't ask you, and I'm going to, back in 2021, when I asked you if you would like to write in my first book, the first book of the trilogy, Memories of Lockdown, why did you decide that you wanted to, Deborah? Because I was thrilled
I
when you said yes.
I think it's to do with this,
Mm.
because I think you get to this level where actually it's best not to think. Because very often, as you've talked about the programming, often our first thought would be, well, why do it? How am I going to benefit? Is it going to cost me time or effort? Or why are we going to think? Or we might think positively and say, oh, I'm going to do that because she's my friend and I want to help her and whatever. They're all stories. Let's get rid of the stories and go with the flow. And the truth is, I don't remember. And
No.
it was like, if someone says something to me, you planted the seed about the Glastonbury event. You planted that seed. And it was just, I was like, then I felt the excitement. So you obviously said to me in 21, did I want to contribute? And obviously my heart went
Yep.
into a state of expansion, yes, please. And you've got to
Wonderful.
follow that expansion.
Wonderful.
That's the
And
way
that's
forward.
what that first book looked like. And then it went
Exactly.
on to 2 and 3. And then the book I published this year, Memories of the Lockdown Years, there
Well
it is.
done.
So
Well
thank you
done.
so much for being part of it,
Amazing.
Deborah. It's been absolutely
Amazing.
wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
I will put any and all links of things that we've talked about. Deborah and I will sort it all out. We'll put all the links below. And thank you
We'll
all
go
so
from there. And
much
I'm going to
for,
see you very soon.
yes, thank you for
Thank
listening.
you,
We hope you've
Rosanne. Thank you for
enjoyed
all
it.
the work that you're doing. Thank you for being my friend. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. And thank you to anyone that's watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye for now.